boarding call for all remaining passengers. Please now make your way to the gate. The podcast is about to begin.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Travel. Thank you to all our viewers and listeners for following along on our journey so far. You can catch us on Spotify and follow along, and if you can subscribe on YouTube, we are so grateful. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined with friend and colleague Katrina Latimer from AmaWaterways.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
And I really do appreciate you coming on today, because you've come up from Newcastle today. You don't just live round the corner, despite the fact you're a Scottish girl.
I am Scottish, but married to Geordie.
Oh, there you go. That's a good combination, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scotland and Geordie. So, so welcome, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And looking forward to not just hearing about AmaWaterways, but hearing your journey in travel. And a lot of people will be looking and thinking, I remember Katrina, because you've had a busy career.
And nearly all my adult life. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the travel industry. It kind of started when I was 14 and I wanted to be an air hostess. Oh my God, I wanted to be an air hostess more than anything
in the
whole world. Yeah. And that's really where my love of I have to get into this industry started.
And did you ever become an air hostess?
No.
Did everything else?
I was a check-in girl at Glasgow Airport.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, if you just like to put your luggage on the belt. And my favourite part was the bing bong, when you were in the departure lounge for the Heathrow and you pressed a little button and you're like, bing bong, could I just please board rows 1 to 5? Or whatever. I thought I'd made it.
So take us right back then and tell us how you started in travel, and it wasn't an air hostess.
So literally, I was working in a marketing agency in Glasgow, and it was Doogie Donnelly's father-in-law who was my MD, so I was his PA. And I loved the job, loved him, it was an amazing job, but I was looking out the window and it was February and it was literally snowing, and I had to travel about an hour and 20 to get into Glasgow from Curluke in Lanarkshire. And
that was a journey.
I thought, you know what? I'm dreaming of better climbs. I just want to do something. So I literally opened up the Yellow Pages. Back in the day of the Yellow Pages, I flipped through the Yellow Pages and I looked at Thomson and Intosun, and they all had offices, which you could just find in the Glasgow Yellow Pages. So I literally just phoned them. Back in the day when you could do that, and I phoned them and I said, have you got any jobs as overseas reps? And they're like, well, actually, we've got interviews in March. We've got big group interviews in March. So come along. So I did. And I did the interview, and there was a big group interview. And then at the end of it, they just said, right, we would like to offer you a position. And I just cried. I couldn't believe it. From that moment, like 4 weeks later, I suddenly had this opportunity to travel overseas. So I had to hand in my notice. I sold my car. The night before I left, I was crying, thinking, oh my God, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I got off the plane to the training course in the Costa Brava. And the Don Juan Hotel, if anybody remembers that, the Don Juan Hotel in the Costa Brava. And I was there for a week, and then we were sent to resort. And I just thought, this is exactly what I hoped it would be.
Such a far cry from looking out a window in the Glasgow city centre in the snow and rain.
I know.
Yeah, good for you.
And it was just incredible. So I worked in Torrevieja.
And who was that for?
Intosun,
yeah.
Right.
Great name.
I know ILG, Intosun, so it was Intosun, Lancaster and Global. But I repped in Torrevieja for my first year.
I love Torrevieja.
Everybody pronounced it wrong. I mean, everybody arrived.
Even to this day, they still say it wrong.
Torrevieja, everything, just all sorts. And then it was back in the day when you could have allocated an arrival.
Remember that?
So people would fly into Alicante and they would assume they were going to Benidorm.
And then go to Torrevieja.
And then you'd go to Torrevieja. And the hotel that I was in, the Hotel Lathenia, and it's a big urbanisation now.
Is that where
in the middle of
shopping
nowhere?
Centre is now? There's Lathenia shopping centre,
yeah. But that wasn't there. I mean, I'm going back to 1988. And people would arrive and they would just refuse to get off the bus, and you'd be going, come on, it's okay, it's going to be lovely.
You can do this.
You can do this. And then they really, leaned into it and absolutely loved it. So I did that for my first year. Ski season in Austria, and then a spring season in Lanzarote. And in the June, my regional manager pulled me into the office, and you're thinking, oh my God, what have I done?
What have I done this time?
And then he said, look, we have an opportunity for you to go long haul. I went, oh, okay, tell me. Acapulco.
Wow.
I know. And I said, oh, okay,
Torrevieja,
yeah,
Acapulco.
It's good. It's a yes. It's a yes from me. So that was that. And he said, right, you've got 48 hours.
So
Pack your bags.
ILG did Acapulco.
Intersun did Acapulco. We had 2 charter flights a week.
Charter flights?
Yeah. One from Gatwick and one from Manchester.
How amazing.
And honestly, the most exciting part of working out there is when people used to bring the British newspapers out. Because we were so far away from home and there was no internet and there, we just didn't know what was going on. That would have been the back end of 88, 89.
Right, so I just started to travel in 88, so that's probably why I didn't remember the Acapulco service.
So 89, and when we were out there, the APTA conference was out there. So all of the movers and shakers were out for the back end of that year, and it was just, showcasing that as a destination at the time. I know that we don't go there now. The UK market doesn't go there now, but it was fun times and just very, very different. And you've got this big modern part, which is all the touristy part where all the hotels were. And I was in the Tortuga Hotel right on the seafront. And then you would get a little bus downtown and it was just the poorest place, And even when I left at the end of the season, the housekeepers were saying, oh, can I have your towel, your beach towel? And I'm thinking, I've used that for 9 months. But they just didn't have a towel as nice as that. And she said, I'll stitch it all around the edges and I'll make it lovely for my family. So, there was definitely contrasts in terms of the stayed in the tourist area, you didn't see it. But I think it's right to understand.
And I think even if you look now, there's still destinations where you go to that I've got a little bit of a tourist conscience. That you go to a beautiful luxury 5-star all-inclusive resorts and literally outside there's poverty.
I know.
And I'm not saying it stops me going because it doesn't, but you do have a little bit of a conscience about it, don't you?
I mean, we were in recently on one of our cruises. I was in Vietnam and Cambodia, and it's incredible. But actually, when you're going through some of the streets, you realise, for example, they don't have bin day, so they burn all the rubbish at the side of the street, and you look at it and think, oh my God, this is that it was 2024. I'm thinking this is 2024. And people are burning the rubbish at the side of the street. So there's still that out there. But I think you learn from it.
Yeah.
Everything that you see, you just learn from it and think, okay, be thankful for what you have. Be
very grateful for what we've got, the freedom.
Exactly.
And I did we'll go on to talk about river cruises, but I was fortunate enough pre-COVID to do the Myanmar and do the Irrawaddy River on a river cruise.
Yeah.
And the poverty out there was, but not just the poverty, they weren't allowed to use the internet and, they didn't have the freedom that we have. So being grateful is one of the things that always comes out of these things, isn't it?
And the UK has got, a lot of positives. It really does. So we should be very thankful for the country that we live in, even though the weather's a bit rubbish.
I know, but then I always say it's good for business. I do a rain dance in July, so we get the Glasgow Fair's always raining. So, Carluke to Acapulco, that's a stretch. Where did you go after Acapulco?
So, when I finished the season, a gentleman called David Elstrop, he was the sales director of ILG at the time, and I said to him at the conference, I would like to come and be a sales rep for Intersun in the UK, and I live just outside Glasgow. Have you got any jobs? And his comment was, look, every rep says to me they want to come and work in the UK, but they always come back and they rep again. And I said, no, I think I'm ready. So anyway, I got home. It was about 2 weeks after the conference. I got home and I called him up. And I said, hello, Mr. Elstrop. I met you out in Acapulco. And I think he was a bit taken aback. And he said, you're not going to believe this. There's literally, the person has just left in the west of Scotland. Would you like to apply for it? So I did, and I got it. And that's when I started. Graham Oswald was my boss.
Oh.
The lovely Graham Oswald, and I used to tramp round the streets. There was Anne Wheatley on the East Coast and me. I was Katrina Richmond back then.
I think that's when I first met you, was when you were doing that. Yeah,
Katrina Richmond I was back then, and I was doing your 6 to 8 calls a day, going in with brochures and cakes, and it was just fun. It was fun times. But I mean, you're talking before the internet, as I said, but you're also talking before mobile phones.
Before view data. you
Dear
know, our view
God.
data was just starting in the kind
I
of
know.
late 80s.
We
Which
used
is the
to have
booking
to-
system for the agents who are not, you know, new agents won't even know what view data is. I talked about this a few weeks ago, how I actually was in mourning when they took away view data.
Oh, people did not want it to go.
I know, and you look back and you think, why did we want to keep it? It was so poor. But I mean, it was not functional at all.
Yeah.
But you just had total faith in it. And having been a travel agent from no view data to then view data to now all this.
And look at it now.
I know. It's mental. But there's more overbookings now than there ever was back in the day. Yeah, because computers are not always as up to date as they'd like to think they are. Whereas back in the day when it was your wee docket, when you put... bring back the good old days, that's what I say.
Well, the good old days, except standing in a phone box, 4 messages from agency support, and the snow's and
the young ones
thinking,
don't know they're born.
God. Yeah, so I mean, it's fun to talk about it now, because I think you're so right. You know, the young people coming into our industry now, it's very glamorous, but, you know, you've got everything at your fingertips, and it just wasn't like that, you know. You had to really graft to get anything done, you know.
Or even to know your trade. There was a lot more effort required.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the young ones. But then somebody will be sitting in that chair in 20 years talking about our time and saying, we had it easy. So it's, you know, everything's at the right time, isn't it?
But then, you know, there was the Gulf War. ILG went bust. A few companies, and they also went bust. So it's quite a turbulent few years.
Yep.
Then where, you know, there was, you know, the paper deeds of assignment. When you had to obviously get a customer's booking reference and then book a new holiday, and then you had to apply for the refund of the first holiday. So for a travel agent,
they had to take that to their lawyer and get it notarised.
Can't even begin to
I
think
remember,
how bad it was.
You know, I remember ILG going bust. I remember all the other companies subsequently after that, and I could fill in deeds of assignment in my sleep. It was
I know.
Whereas now it's just
so easy, isn't it? I know, absolutely.
However, we've not had any major catastrophes as far as suppliers going bust. We shouldn't even talk about it in case it happens, because we're right in the middle of the Iranian conflict just now. So
it's
that
is
is
geopolitical issue
having
going
an
on.
impact. There's no point not talking about it, because it is having an impact on the industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just nothing new under the sun, literally.
But you know, I've been through the ash cloud, the Arab Spring, COVID, you know, the tsunami over Christmas. There's just been so many challenges that face the travel industry,
and we're still standing.
And we're still standing, and you just come out the other side. And when the young ones, you know, hear something like, you know, oh my goodness, we've got this war with Iran and what's going to happen, it's quite nice to be able to say, it's like a keep calm and carry on.
I know.
Because actually you do come out the other side, and even if you've booked your holiday and you're worried, something good will come of it at the end. You know, you will get away, and you will, you know, get that dream holiday, whichever that is.
I love the saying, it'll be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end. And I think that is just so true.
Brilliant.
Like, we've been through so much, and I hate using the word resilient, but we're a very resilient industry.
Yeah.
And if it's not the Iranian conflict, it'll be something else.
But we're all working to lift each other up. You know, the agents and the tour operators or the cruise lines, whatever, we all work in partnership with each other. We're trying to bring something beautiful to people, you know, so that they can travel and they can see the world. So it is about trying to make it as easy as we possibly can when there is conflict to just, you know, get people's holidays sorted.
Which I say all the time, another reason to use a travel agent, you know, because
100%.
Can you imagine navigating what's going on without using a travel agent? It must be really hard for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we're still standing. So after ILG, where did you go after that?
I went to First Choice. So First Choice was Owners Abroad.
Falcon and all that.
Yeah, that's right. And they decided a complete rebrand. So we had big events in Birmingham and Manchester and London and Glasgow, and we invited thousands of travel agents. And we had Lorraine Kelly was at Glasgow, Jonathan Ross was at London. So we had all these kind of famous people coming along, which was fabulous. And we gave away hundreds and hundreds of free flights to agents, and just it was just a really, really I think it was probably one of the biggest launches that there had ever been of
And the
a tour
colours were
operator.
turquoise and pink.
That's
and
right.
Loved
Oh
it.
my
Loved
God. So pretty. And I worked there for 14 years. So that was amazing. Absolutely loved it. Then First Choice merged with Thomson. So I did a further 7 years at the merged TUI business.
So 21 years doing that.
21 years doing that role, yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's a you know, the times changed. First Choice was all about the fun. It was all about the doing lots of parties for agents. By the time you were 21 years down the line and the industry had evolved into a much more corporate feel, and it was a very well-run, beautiful grown-up company working for TUI. You know, you just knew that they did right by their customers. So I absolutely loved it, but there came a point 21 years down the line where so many structural changes, and they had appointed me as national account manager for TUI at that point, managing all the partnerships with independent travel agents. But I had an 11-year-old daughter, and they wanted me to be in Luton 4 days a week. And I just said, I can't do
Not the
that.
right time.
I choose not to. I choose not to do that. You know, my priority is bringing up my wee girl. So I left. It was a bold move. I had nothing to go to, but I just said, I'll find something.
You were such in the industry, yeah.
I'm like, you know, you just have to take time out. And I got picked up by Thomas Cook. So they were a competitor.
So literally all the big boys you've worked for. Hey, but then they went bust too.
Then they went bust.
You get the kiss of death.
There was a time where people were saying, do not employ. Yes, the company's going to go bust at some point. And then Thomas Cook obviously went into liquidation. And literally, 5 months later, COVID hit. So during COVID, I did a year's maternity cover for Royal Caribbean. But we weren't out on the road. It was very much a phone management relationship with the agents. And then
So that got you into cruise then?
That got me into cruise. And then I saw this role, and I knew that the Royal Caribbean one was a maternity cover. So I saw this role, and it was with AmaWaterways, river cruising. And I'm thinking, what is that? And then I remembered I'd been at a TTNG conference in Budapest when I was Thomas Cook. And I remember having eaten dinner on an AmaWaterways ship. And I thought, oh my God, that's what that is. Oh yeah, I really like that, if I remember
nice
rightly,
product,
you know.
yeah,
So anyway, went for the interview, and here I am 4 years later.
Brilliant. And what a lovely product to work with. And River Cruise
Linda.
has become so popular. And it's
Absolutely.
interesting to watch the journey of River Cruise, because when I started selling River Cruise, it was very much an elderly, clientele. Not the case now. It's fabulous. And there's so much choice in the rivers now as well. So yeah, what a lovely company to work for.
It's a privately owned business, which means it operates very differently to the big corporate wheel that I'd been used to. But at my stage in my career, it just fit beautifully, and I thought, this is the last role I will do until I retire. That I would not even want to look elsewhere, because it's so gorgeous. The portfolio is so gorgeous, and just the way the company look after us, look after our guests, the crew on board, just everything about it. It just is about passion and engagement, and anything that you want to happen, we can make it happen. That's the kind of ethos of the business.
Well, that's nice when it's family run, because when it's a big corporate wheel, as you say, you've got to have meetings about having meetings about having a meeting, and by the time you get an answer, it's too late. Whereas with a smaller, family run business, you can actually make things happen, which is.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, the head office is in Calabasas, and sometimes we're having conversations with the US that might not marry up with the UK market. So we've really got to say, okay, that works in the US, but actually let's do this in the UK market. So, but I mean, we've got 32 ships.
I was going to ask you, many ships. So you're not a small by any stretch. You're a big player in the river cruise market.
Operational for 23 years. And Rudy Schreiner, who is our co-founder, I mean, he actually kind of was the first person to bring river cruising to the industry. And he's worked for all the major river cruise companies and then thought, I can do this on my own. I'm going to start my own company. So here we are, 23 years down the line.
And river cruise is very similar to ocean cruise. There's a ship for everybody. And the interesting thing is that, you know, AMA sits very much in the 5-star market and luxury market, which is lovely. But there's a river cruise for everybody. And it's just a great way to travel. It's the most relaxing holiday, but you get to see so much and get immersed in so much.
I know. I think that, you know, I suffer quite badly from motion sickness. So on ocean ships, I struggle a little bit, and I have to wear the little toweling bands with the ball pressing on my wrist.
And on river, you don't.
And you don't, because you don't feel it.
Yeah.
You have to look out the window to see that you're moving.
Customers don't believe me when I say that, but it's.
I never wear them now.
But I
never
don't
wear
suffer
them.
from seasickness, so I can't actually hand on heart say I've noticed. But you're saying there is definitely.
What a revelation!
Okay.
So the ship is actually going at 6 miles an hour. So
Okay.
you're hardly moving anyway
nearly
when you're
walk faster.
travelling. Yeah, exactly. And of course the other thing is when you are river cruising, you're not kind of docking and then getting a tender boat and you're waiting for coaches. You literally are stepping off the ship
Up close and personal.
and you just step right into, you know, lovely little village of Rudesheim in Germany, or, you know, you might be in Arles or wherever in France. So no matter where you're going, and your point about there being a ship for everybody, there's also a river for everybody. And that's something that I always say to guests if I'm doing any sort of event where I'm talking directly to guests. I'll say, what, you know, do you like, you know, the lavender fields down in the south of the France and cheese and wine? Then choose France. Do you like the quintessential picture postcard German villages? Then choose the Rhine. Mm-hmm. Do you want, you know, big cities like Budapest and Vienna and Bratislava and really iconic cities?
Very iconic when it comes to river cruise, yeah.
So you need to really think about what do you want to get out of your trip. And of course, there's also exotics.
I was going to ask you about that. Tell us about that, because that's people just always automatically think of Budapest and the Blue Danube when it comes to river cruise.
Exactly.
But the interesting thing is when people go on a river cruise, they go again and they want another river. So it's like getting their little stamp book. I want to be and do all my rivers.
It is. It's moving around the rivers.
It's addictive,
yeah,
isn't it?
Absolutely.
So tell us about exotics.
So there's 4 destinations. There's the Mekong. So that's you taking in your Vietnam and Cambodia. And on that type of trip, you are very much, in fact, on all of our trips, it's very much immersing into the local atmosphere, the local dining, whatever that country is kind of quintessentially famous for. When you get to exotics, it's even more culturally immersive. So on the Mekong, for example, you one day might be, you know, visiting a palace. The next day you might be visiting the Genocide Museum and the killing fields, which is a very somber day, but of the whole trip, it's the day that I talk about the most. It was just so impactful, understanding, thinking, oh my God, I was 14 when that happened. I remember my grandpa watching the news, but as a teenager, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Didn't impact you then.
But then learning the story, and the guides lived through it. They bring it to life. They tell their own stories. You've got the Nile in Egypt. So we've actually just added a 3rd ship on the Nile. So
it's
that's
becoming very popular.
So popular.
Again, it was popular before, and now it's really popular
really
again.
popular again.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different companies that do different budget levels as well. So yes, we're at that highest end of luxury, but there are entry level Nile cruises too. But
I'm a luxury girl.
I'm a luxury. I certainly am now.
You've been spoiled.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our ship, the AmaLilia, which I was on in December, she was voted by Condé Nast Traveller as being one of the top 10 hottest ships in the world in 2025.
Wow.
But the scale of the temples is beyond anything that you could imagine until you see them. The nice thing about the way that we cruise the Nile is we only go to temples for half a day, and the other half a day you are actually cruising. And you can just be lying on the top deck, and then you just suddenly hear the sounds of the prayers from the religious structures. I can't remember what they're called in Egypt, but you hear the sound of the prayers, and you think, oh, okay, it must be 4 o'clock, or it must be 10 o'clock or whatever, which is lovely. But we also go to Cairo. So you do get to see the pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx and the Grand Egyptian Museum. So, of course, there's a big thing in November last year where all of the artifacts in Cairo from all the older museums were put in one place, which is now the Grand Egyptian Museum.
Okay.
So that's definitely worth a visit. There was a big exhibition in Glasgow the back end of last year as well, just kind of talking about it. Then you've got the Chobe in Africa. And it's actually a 4-night cruise on the water, and you've got, you know, the buffaloes, you've got the elephants, the crocodiles, everything just in the water. But you've got Cape Town and Victoria Falls, Kenya. You can go to, you know, Ngorongoro National Park, Serengeti National Park. So it's a real safari. Totally bucket list, because that ship holds 24 people.
Wow,
so it's so
like
exclusive. And you can even go gorilla trekking in Rwanda.
We've got an inquiry for that just now.
No.
I know, I didn't realise you could do that with Ama.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We do need to talk actually. We've got an inquiry ongoing for that, which is really unusual. They want to go to Zanzibar to get married, and then they want to go gorilla trekking in Uganda.
How amazing. And then last but not least, if you don't mind indulging, is Colombia.
And that's quite new for you, isn't it?
We've only been operating for a year. We have 2 ships. They hold 60 guests each. And Rudy and Christine, 2 of our co-founders, went out to Colombia in 2021 and saw this River Magdalena sitting in the Magdalena Basin. About 85% of the people who live in Colombia live in this Magdalena Basin. But the river was empty, absolutely nothing in it. So started to have talks with the government, then with all the town mayors, then with all of the local business people, all arts and crafts. Then we got to work, dredged the river, started to build the ships using Colombian materials, Colombian labour, employed hundreds of Colombian people pulling this programme together, building our docking stations, everything. And now we just have this most incredible itinerary, which is very much about rhythm and music and dance and coffee and carnivals. And a couple of places that you're going to visit here would be Palenque. And Palenque was the first free town of the Americas. So the Spanish royal crown decreed it free from slavery. So it's got a very rich heritage, and it's got lots of colourful celebrations.
That sounds fascinating.
Also in all the wetlands off the river, 20% of all the species of birds in the world sit in the Magdalena Basin. So we do sunrise and sunset, and in our excursion boats into the wetlands to see them as well.
We definitely need to chat offline, because I've also got clients that were just in this morning booking a trip, and they are avid bird watchers.
This is the thing.
And I
People
said to them
wouldn't know
today,
how to.
where else in the world do you still want to go that you haven't been? So there we go, Colombia.
I know.
Who knew?
I know. So it's bringing something new to the river cruising industry, but all the while, no matter where you are, what you're seeing with AmaWaterways, you're on a 5-star luxury cruise. So you've got that elegance, but it's like a country house hotel on board. You know, there's no pomp and ceremony. We just want our guests to kick back and
no matter
relax.
what river you're on, you're going to get that same standard, 5-star luxury.
Yeah, we don't have different levels of cruising with us. We're all at the highest end, at the 5-star end.
And also talked about exotics, but obviously Europe is, I'm going to say your bread and butter, but you've got a lot of ships in Europe, and you've also got one of the biggest ships in Europe as well.
Oh, so the AmaMagna,
yes,
right?
Tell us
So
about
the
that.
AmaMagna, now she is on the Danube, and we couldn't have a double width ship on any other river because all the rivers have got locks, and you have to be able to fit inside the lock. And honestly, you become a geek when it comes to locks. Everybody's on the top deck is so excited that we're going through a lock. All of a sudden it creeps up on you and you're a geek straight away. But the AmaMagna it's a rather unflattering name. She's a double width ship, right? But 22 metres wide. But what we chose to do with AmaMagna is not just make her a bigger ship and put a lot more people on. So there's only 20% more guests on the AmaMagna than there is on the rest of the fleet in Europe.
Okay.
So the French ships hold 145, Danube and Rhine 165, Douro 100. So the different rivers have different ships built for the river and for the locks, etc. Magna, there's 4 restaurants and they're all complimentary. 5 bars, a pool and a whirlpool, a full-size pickleball court, spa treatment rooms, gym, spin studio.
So all the things you would expect more in an ocean cruise,
ocean ship,
you can get that on a river as well. That's interesting.
And I think she is our flagship.
Yeah, she looks beautiful.
She is our flagship. So with that in mind, you know, I got on her actually for the first time in January. So I've been here nearly 4 years, and it was a standing joke amongst the sales team that I hadn't been on this ship. So I was on in January, and my jaw hit the floor, and I thought, okay, I've been talking about this for the last 3.5 years. Now I absolutely get it. So much so that we're building a second. We're calling it a brother ship.
No, a sister ship.
We always say sister ships, but we're calling it a brother ship because it's going to be called the AmaRudy. After Rudy Schreiner. Yeah.
Most ships are always feminine as well, so that's interesting.
So this is our first brother ship. This is our first male ship.
Oh, super.
When you bring new ships into the fleet and to, you know, guests who are looking for something a bit different, the new ship in the Mekong, for example, has got a big double height atrium. The AmaRudy will have different things to the AmaMagna, you know, and it's all artists' impressions at the moment. So, you know, but it's coming in 2027. And then by 2032, wishing my life away here, we have actually got 50 ships that are going to be in our fleet. So
going 32 just now, up to 50.
Up to 50 in 2032. Yeah.
Maybe you and I will be retired by then.
I will be retired.
Look forward to that.
I wish AmaWaterways.
I know, well, absolutely. We'll just go on them in our retirement. Yeah. I can't believe we're out of time.
I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was great having a conversation with you. What a fabulous product. And for the listeners and viewers, go and check out AmaWaterways because you'll be blown away by how beautiful the vessels.
Yeah.
You call it a vessel, don't you?
A ship.
A ship. Yeah.
Never a boat.
Never a boat, no. I can't help myself when somebody calls ship. You can put a boat on a ship, but you can't put a ship in a boat. That's how
I'll remember that.
The definite. I remember being told that like 30 years ago when I started selling cruise.
Because
in my travel career, you know, when I started, nobody went on cruises. It was the rich and famous, and it was totally unaffordable for people.
Just the elite, wasn't it? And now it's
there's a ship
for everybody.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Katrina.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been lovely to see you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
And thank you to all our viewers and listeners for joining a great conversation all about AmaWaterways, and we look forward to next week's episode.